Hello, it's me, Kylan Echo, and I am requesting a call to action on the Stop Killing Games initiative. We need to be able to make sure that we have the ability to make sure that we're not having problems with the games being delisted or with issues of video games no longer having any sort of functionality after they are gone. One of the big examples of this would be Rumbleverse. Rumbleverse was seemingly removed, and there was no other way to play it. Same thing as what people have been saying as well, which would be The Crew. The Crew is also another game that ended up just getting removed from the libraries, and we cannot continue to allow publishers as well as some developers from removing games that people have spent the hard-earned money on, because it is very anti-consumer. If we're able to have this be escalated in the regions of Europe, as well as being able to make sure that people can actually own their games instead of have to own nothing and be happy. And that's not something that we really want to deal with. It's very anti-consumer. It has consumer rights issues. Accursed Farms has talked about it multiple times. I saw the podcast with Cody Robertson as well. But if this can get passed in Europe, then it can get trickled down into other countries, as well as to make sure to prevent games from being destroyed. Because we want to make sure that we're able to preserve these games, as well as give them the ability to either be released again, or be able to give people some sort of access to it in some way, shape, or form. Now, this isn't requiring an always online game to be always online past its expiration date. This is more or less requiring it to have some sort of functionality so people can play it, give some sort of access, maybe community access to it, in its lowest form at the very least. And mostly, when it comes to like single player games, those are included, but they're not exactly the main focus of everything, because a lot of games like Good Old Games helps preserve these games. In some situations, certain developers like Ubisoft will start removing games from people's libraries because they can and because they want to. But this Stop Killing Games initiative is going to prevent them from doing stuff like that, and at least provide you with the product in some way, shape, or form. That way you're not having to deal with not being able to own that game, as well as not being able to play the game. One good example of being able to play a game that ended up getting delisted from a lot of storefronts would be Rockman X Dive. Does it have all the content from the original online servers? Absolutely not. But with community support and stuff like that, they had brought that back into the offline version of the game that people did a survey to help bring back. So hopefully this could be more or less something that people can sign for, and I will go ahead and leave a link into the video description. But I did want to at least advise people to go ahead, if you're in Europe or if you're in the UK, to go ahead and sign the petition. As an extension of this can also affect certain VTuber programs from certain VTuber companies, because even though in some instances they are considered games, especially on Steam, because that's normally when software is put on there, it still is also classified as a game. It would still also fall under this, because I would hate in the next 10 years that Denshi Soft would go under and nobody to be able to use the software, or stuff like Warudo wouldn't be able to use the software if it got delisted. It needs to have some sort of functionality to it, or at least have some sort of availability to stuff like that, especially with stuff like VR chat later on, if we ever had issues with that as well. And the Stop Killing Games initiative would at least give us the basic functionality of a lot of these online games, to at least either give us the option to host our own lobbies, be able to do stuff like that, as well as be able to at least play it in some way, shape, or form, at least in its lowest form, to be able to get access to it. getting that ripped out of your library, or getting a game ripped out of your library just because Ubisoft said so, or just because another company said so, well, that's very anti-consumer, and there should be certain consumer rights policies and acts that can help prevent that. And in the UK, that's definitely going to be a thing, as well as Europe. And if that happens and it gets passed, then that can also go into other states and other countries like the US, Canada, and stuff like that. So if we're able to get this passed, it's then going to help with us when it comes to games at least being available to be played, even if they don't have their online servers available. So yeah, that is the gist of it. I will go ahead and leave the link to the Stop Killing Games initiative. I do believe people should be able to play it, because, you know, increasingly number of video games that are sold effectively as goods, they don't have expiration dates, they don't provide us with anything, they don't let us know when the publisher starts to end support immediately, and it's definitely planned obsolescence, and it's only detrimental to consumers. So this helps make the preservation effectively impossible if we continue to allow companies like this to take these games and rip them out of our libraries, take the hard-earned money we ended up paying for it, and not really essentially giving it us back. That's why people, you know, immediately go to The Crew or games like Rumbleverse, because they're just not available. So hopefully this gets escalated, and hopefully people are able to get this passed, because this is one of the few things that should be done when it comes to video game preservation. And believe it or not, I do like to preserve video games. So I would definitely, you know, I definitely love to have, you know, love to see games that were delisted in the past to return, like on stuff like Good Old Games, because Good Old Games is also in support of the movement, and you know, they have a good track history of basically backing things up for people to play. And Steam has their own little way of doing it. They're not directly saying it, but it still doesn't help when you have other companies with their own official launchers, as well as companies who just straight up just take the game off the store to make it no longer available. There needs to be some sort of practice in place to help preserve these games or make them available for everybody, instead of having to get these taken off. So hopefully this can be taken care of when the signatures do happen. As of the writing of this, you know, as of the recording of this video, they are currently, for the European Citizens Initiative, 785,803 signatures have been signed, and that's 78%. So if they can get at least, you know, the full 100% within the next 2 weeks, that'd be great. There's also the UK government petition. I think it's currently at 80% as well. So I hope people are able to see this. I hope people are able to understand my stance on it. I would love to play games that ended up getting delisted before, so I can at least experience them in some way, shape, or form. And I would love to be able to make sure games just don't die, because, you know, when it comes down to it, you're spending your money on this stuff, and if the game just up and vanishes out of your library, well, you just lost money on it. There's no way to get a refund. There's no way to know when that expiration date was happening. There's no way to really know when that was going to happen if they just go ahead and just do it out of nowhere. Anyways, hope you all have a good night, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.